Mr. President, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for us at the NESG, our collaborative process does not end with this summit, as we continue to work with government in between summits, and this has continued even after the last summit. As part of our commitment towards ongoing efforts by the government to create jobs, the Nigerian Economic Summit the summit group has assisted the Jobs Creation Unit in the Office of the Vice President of Nigeria, a private sector-driven initiative to create jobs. It is anchored on 5 cardinal areas: ICT, construction, agriculture, retail, as well as clean and renewable energy. The Jobs Creating Unit, JCU, is expected to create jobs through the private sector by identifying linkages within the 5 cardinal areas that can be leveraged on. Several projects that incorporate the development of new business ecosystems have been mapped out, and collaborative strategies to ensure that they are delivered have commenced. We have also, through on NEST 21 recommendations, through the direct collaboration with a number of ministries, we had very productive meetings with the following ministers: Science and Technology, Water Resources, Power, Works and Housing, Industry, Trade and Investment, Environment, and Finance. As a result, our policy commissions are working more collaboratively with these ministries. For instance, in a bid to make a positive impact on power generation, efforts are also ongoing by the NESG to champion the cause of clean and renewable energy as alternative sources of energy required to productively drive the economy, create jobs, as well as address desertification. It is our hope that all issues impeding progress in this regard would be addressed, and the potential of these alternative energy sources can be harnessed. To this end, we were part of deliberations of the National Council on Power held in Kaduna in July, and one significant outcome was a target of generating 30,000 megawatts of electricity from renewable energy to contribute 30% to the energy mix by 2030, referred to as 30-30-30. Also at last year's summit, we had a successful roundtable with the National Assembly. We followed through on the outcomes of the session, and on February 26, 2016, NESG, in partnership with the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law and other key private sector stakeholders, the Enable, DFID, and GEMS 3 program, formally presented the Business Environment Legislative Review Report to the National Assembly as part of the group's commitment to the 8th National Assembly to facilitate the development of a competitive business environment in Nigeria. As outcome of rigorous research, the report identified the significance of micro, small, and medium enterprises to the Nigeria's economy, and the need to amend, repeal, or create legislation that would significantly improve the business environment in Nigeria. Subsequently, the leadership of the National Assembly approved the establishment of the National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable as a platform for the private sector to work closely with the legislature to develop the right tools and instruments that will accelerate business and investment across various segments of the Nigerian economy. I am pleased to note that these joint efforts have not only culminated in the acceleration of the passage of some of those bills, it has allowed for robust input by the private sector through direct work with the various technical committees in the Senate and House of Representatives. The first of such bill, the Railway Bill, was passed by the Senate in July. Also, as a demonstration that we walk our talk, and as an outcome to a session at last year's summit on threats to human security, I led a delegation of the NESG on a field visit to Maiduguri, facilitated by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, UN-OCHA, on January 15. Prior to that visit, we had held a roundtable discussion in Lagos with UN-OCHA aimed at mobilizing private sector response and investment for development in Nigeria's northeast. The objective of the roundtable, the objective of that discussion was to interface with the private sector operatives in order to explore opportunities for joint partnerships and collaboration in humanitarian programs for the situation in the northeast. During the visit to Maiduguri, we held meetings with the state government and met with other UN agencies working in the northeast. We also visited an IDP camp and a host community for internally displaced persons. It is our conclusion that we have a role to play in jump-starting the economy of the northeast through private sector investments that can create jobs and incomes to the people of the northeast. We also offer to provide technical support to any federal government-led intervention program for the northeast, as well as any regional development agenda by the states of the northeast. I was also invited by the United Nations Secretary General as part of NESG to represent NESG and Nigeria at the first World Humanitarian Summit in May this year at Istanbul, Turkey, where we highlighted and raised awareness to the global community on the plight of the IDPs in the Northeast. Mr. President, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, recent data released by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics clearly confirms that we are in an economic recession. I will not preempt the keynote presentation this morning that will provide further insights from us on the state of the Nigerian economy, but one thing is clear. This is an opportunity for us to swallow some bitter pills and tell ourselves some hard truths. Unfortunately for us, our options are now limited, but we can begin by focusing on Made in Nigeria, which is the theme of this year's Nigerian Economic Summit. Consequently, NESG 22 is expected to convey the need for us to urgently commit to structural and fiscal changes required for us to leverage our market size and turn our consumption pattern from a liability into being an asset through Made in Nigeria. It is important to note that we are not under any delusions to the inherent challenges of Made in Nigeria, which range from standards and quality, infrastructure, regulations to access to capital. We are, however, of the firm belief that there is no better time than now to have a coherent conversation on further diversification of the economy through the promotion of Made in Nigeria products and services. Other oil-dependent countries have achieved this, and as such, we can. All that is required is a commitment of all actors and stakeholders to this endeavor, and we shall be better off for it down the road. The 7 plenary sessions will address the key sub-themes of the summit: the macroeconomic environment, technology and innovations, job creation, skills development, ease of doing business, etc. We have also introduced 7 insight sessions called the Situation Room that will promote deep interactions on key specific made in Nigeria sectors, practical experiences, and insights with a view to generating a conversation on quality, standards, and changing stakeholders' behavior and attitudes. In addition, we will still have our 10 policy commissions breakout sessions in order to create a practical follow-through mechanism for implementation after the summit. The thrust of NESG would then be to facilitate stakeholders' discussions and agreements on the practical issues and work out the strategy to achieve self-sufficiency and value addition capacities in several products in manufacturing and services in the shortest possible time. We expect that key outcomes will include a practical roadmap that will contextualize Made in Nigeria as an economic growth and development strategy for our short, medium, and long-term development. Partnerships and policies to deliver desired results and potentials for exports to increase foreign exchange earnings and shore up our reserves. The summit will also emphasize the strong need for execution and proper measurement of results on the part of all stakeholders. On behalf of the board, management, and members of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, I express my immense gratitude to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for honoring our invitation and gracing this event with his presence. I also thank everyone present in this hall and once again welcome you to the 22nd Nigerian Economic Summit. May God reward you for your service to our country. May God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much. As the chairman of the board, they keep giving me more responsibilities than just board duties. So I was also asked to give a vote of thanks. Of course, for anybody who has gone through programs of such, vote of thanks normally come at the end. But since we have Mr. President here, I'm going to give our bit of vote of thanks, and then at the end of the session, by the third day, a proper one would also be given. I, on behalf of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, would like to express our gratitude to the sponsors of NESG. In no particular order, I would like to thank First Bank, Dangote Group, ExxonMobil, CBN, and Zenith Bank in the gold category. In Sapphire, UBA, Flour Mills of Nigeria, Coca-Cola, Stanbic IBTC, Bank of Industry, Shell, Sterling Bank, as well as Nirsal. Special thanks also goes to Airtel, Accenture, CSCS, Unilever, Skybank, NDIC, Nigerian Breweries, and PZ Cousins in the Emerald category. Other supporters include Dana Air, Deloitte, and Sixt Rent-A-Car that have made the 22nd Nigerian Economic Summit possible in spite of the current economic conditions in Nigeria. Their sponsorship and support is indeed a demonstration of their belief in the Nigerian project as well as their belief in the strategic role that public-private sector dialogue plays in national development. Another set of people that I want to thank this morning are our resource persons. You will agree with me that without these speakers, panelists, moderators, etc., there will be no gathering here today. A unique feature of Summit resource persons is that, unlike other conferences where resource persons logistics are catered for, the bulk of our resource persons are responsible for their own conference logistics. This indeed is also a demonstration of their love for country. I cannot thank them enough for their selfless service. Can only hope that the outcomes of these 3 days, for which we shall all be here, will yield productive and positive impacts on Nigeria as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, surely a summit of this magnitude could not have been put together by the staff of NESG and that of the Ministry of Budget and National Planning alone. Therefore, my thanks this morning would be incomplete if I fail to recognize that the NES 22 Joint Planning Committee and all the subcommittees for the work they have done in the last few months to deliver this summit. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. Permit me to express our sincere thanks to all media partners that will be covering this 3-day summit, transmitting the proceedings into households and to Nigerians that cannot make it to the summit, and indeed to the outside world. Your Excellency, Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Nigerian Summit Group, Economic Summit Group, I want to state that we are all most grateful for your presence here today in spite of your busy schedule. In particular, we are most delighted that your ministers are also here with us for these 3 days to agree an agenda for Made in Nigeria as a strategy for growing the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for coming to attend NES 22. Thank you very much.